In this advanced masking demo, we're going to take this image we see on the screen and mask out the background so we can reveal a new image behind it. Now you're saying to yourself, Russ, Mr. Brown, this is a very simple gray background. I run into situations which are much more complex. Well, for demo reasons only, I'm using this gray background, but you can use the techniques you're about to see on much more complicated backgrounds as well. Let's continue and start this process. I'm going to go here to my Layers palette and start from the beginning. As you may already know, you can make a mask in Photoshop from a couple different options. One of them might be from the Image menu, Extract, as you can see here. Another might be here from the Tool palette, selecting the Eraser tool, clicking and holding, and selecting Background Eraser tool or Magic Eraser tool. Those would be very good options for creating a mask. However, I, Russell Preston Brown, believe that the best masks are derived from the image itself. That's right. The best masks come from the channels which you already have available to you. If we look at this image and click here on the Channels tab and click here on the red channel which makes up this RGB image, I'm clicking on the red, the green, and the blue. If you first look at these three channels, you may find that one of them contains enough contrast between the foreground and the background to make an excellent mask. In this particular case, none of them is exactly perfect, and in many cases, none of them will be perfect. However, we're going to do something amazing. We're going to use these channels, but we're going to use them with something special. I'm going to click here on my RGB image. So let's see this secret technique. I'm going to select here the Layers tab and bring up my Layers palette and make sure my image is currently selected. Down here at the base of the Layers palette, I'm going to click on this icon, Create New Fill or Adjustment Layer, clicking and holding and selecting Channel Mixer. Typically, the Channel Mixer is used to convert an image from color to grayscale. If I click here on Monochrome, I get a black and white image which is made up of a combination of the red, green, and blue channels. If I dial in different values, however, for example, a -157 and a +128, and for the blue, how about a +200? If I dial in different values, I get a different image over here. In fact, by adjusting these, I might be able to get a nice contrast image that will highlight the difference between my foreground and background. Thus, I'm creating a mask, a specific mask for specific colors in my original image. Amazing, but true. Let's start with this one and click OK. So essentially, that's our first mask in this process. A mask which gives me a good contrast between the shoulders in the background, the hair in the background, and especially the hat. However, in this case, the hair on the left-hand side is moving. It is moving in the wind, so there's a bit of motion blur. Plus, this hair has a lot of yellows and reds in it, and when we made that mask, it didn't quite separate those completely. So that's a good start. Let's create another. Turn this layer off, go down to the base again, and select Channel Mixer one more time. But this time, we're going to select monochrome once again, but we're going to set the dials so that we get values that will enhance the hair over here on the left-hand side of the image. So let's try a minus value of 168 there for the blues, and let's move the greens up a little bit, and on the reds, let's bring those all the way over here to the right. So now if I go in and readjust this slightly, I can start to enhance this. Look how just these values of the hair are really popping out because of my dialing in these values. And I would go through these and I would readjust this till I pull out a mask of just those values I'm looking for. In this particular case, the hair. That looks great. I'm going to click OK. So now I have two different masks which will achieve the results I'm looking for. This one giving me a nice silhouette, and this mask giving me a nice detail in that wind-blown hair. So what's next? Well, there's still a bit more work left. To start with, we need to copy these adjustments we've made and paste them into our channels palette. To do that, I will turn on one of the layers here, one of our adjustment layers, so we can see the adjustments we've made. Then, from the Select menu, select All, and then over here in the Edit menu, I want to copy merged. Not just a normal copy, but a copy merged. I want a copy of all of the effects happening on the screen at this moment. So now that we have that information, we can go over here to the Channels palette by clicking here on the tab. Down here at the base of the Channels palette, click on the New Channel. And so we now have a blank channel which we can then paste our image into. Just like that. Now let's repeat this process one more time. I'm going to go back over to my Layers palette, turn off this top layer, turn on our other layer that we created, target that layer that we want to copy. From the Edit menu, copy merged one more time. Of course, our selection is still on from the last time we selected it. We go back over to Channels, create a new channel down here at the base one more time, and again from the Edit menu, paste. Let's go to the Select menu now and deselect our current selection. The first thing we need to do to turn this into the perfect mask is to run a little bit of levels on it. So I'm going to select Image, Adjust, Levels. And I'm going to adjust the levels until I can increase the contrast between the background and the foreground. Again, I'm selecting the black slider to make my dark areas a bit darker, my white slider to make my light areas a bit lighter, and I get pretty darn close. But as you notice, and I move these, I can tend to burn away some of the detail in the hair. We're not going to worry about that because we made that additional mask that we're going to add back into this area later. I'm going to click OK. This is a good start, but we need to make our mask black and white and none of these gray shades in the middle. So we're going to use the Dodge and Burn tool to adjust this mask. That's right, Dodge and Burn. I want to dodge the highlights. So I click and hold on this tool, select the Dodge tool, select here in the Options bar, Highlights, and I'm going to select maybe more like a 50% value here. And finally, let's get a fairly large brush, like a 200. So now, watch carefully as I move over the surface. I don't need to worry about hitting any of the image because it's specifically targeting only the highlights of my image. So I'm cleaning up the white areas to make them absolutely perfectly white, just like that. Now the inverse is true. If I click here again and burn the shadows, I can now go through and burn the inside of the mask. Look at that. Look at that. Are you amazed or what? So the edges of my mask and the inner portion of my mask become black. Can I burn the highlights? No. No matter how much I try, I cannot alter that nice white area. Now this can take you so far and get you a pretty good looking edge. But the final step you might have to do is to select the lasso tool and actually go in here and make a selection of those areas that you cannot burn or dodge away, like that. My current foreground color is black, so I can fill this selection region with black, just like that. I'm going to click away from it to deselect it. So this is our first mask. Now let's work on a second mask. I'm going to click here on my channels palette to bring forward the second mask, and this mask specifically targeting the hair. Okay, let's now follow those exact same steps we used to create our first mask. Let's go to Image, Adjust, Levels. I'm selecting the white areas of the image and making them brighter, and the dark areas of the image and making them slightly darker, but not too much, because I want to maintain the nice detail found here in the hairs near the edge. Don't get rid of them using levels or curves. We're going to be much more accurate if we use the Dodge and Burn tool. I'm now going to click OK. Now, going to my Dodge and Burn tool, I'm going to click and hold and select the Burn tool. I want to burn the shadows, and 50% is a pretty good value. I'm going to now go over the surface, and you can see here I'm quickly changing those gray, dark areas to perfectly black, just like that. Don't get near the hair here. You want to go in with a much softer brush. Let's adjust this exposure down to a lower value. Then go in very carefully. Each brush stroke then gently changes these values, and it is not as abrupt. Just like that. That looks great. Our final step might be just to select a brush, in this case a 300 brush, normal mode, and let's increase this to 100%. My current foreground color is black. I can now just go through and clean up the center section, just like this. So that looks pretty good. Now let's take a look at our masks one more time. Here's the first mask we created. It has a white background and a black foreground. Here's the new mask we created. It has a white foreground. So one of these two alpha channels needs to be inverted in order to add them together. I've decided it's going to be alpha channel number 2. I'm going to click on it now. Given the fact that we want to select the foreground and not the background, it's logical that this one would be the one we would choose. Now, from the Image menu, Image, Adjust, Invert. So now we have an inverted mask that will work perfectly with our other mask. Since our mask is inverted, we'll be selecting the foreground, and those areas are represented by white. So let's load this current alpha channel as a selection. To do that, I simply move my cursor here, as you can see on the screen, over the icon for alpha channel 2. On an Apple computer, I'm going to hold down the Command key. On a PC, I would hold down the Control key. And as you can see on the screen now, a small icon appears of a selection. It appears over the icon in alpha channel 2. I'll move it so you can see it. Now, if I merely click on this icon now, one little click, it has loaded that alpha channel as a selection. Amazing but true. So now, watch carefully. I'm going to move my mouse up to alpha channel 1 and select it. It now appears below our current selection. The theory is I would like to add those highlight areas, the selected regions of this new alpha channel. I'd like to add them to my current selection. It sounds complex. It's relatively easy. On a Macintosh, I will now hold down again the Command key and the Shift key. Do you notice the change in the icon? On a PC, this would be the Control and Shift key. We are now adding the current luminosity, the brightest areas of our current mask that we're targeting will be added to the current selection. Amazing but true. Now watch carefully. I'm going to click once. Did you see here? Did you see in this area the additional brightest areas of alpha channel 1 have been added to the current selection? So we now have a combination of alpha channel 1 and alpha channel 2 merely by adding the two together with a simple combination of keystrokes. The next thing I need to do is to turn this current selection into a brand new alpha channel 3. By clicking here at the base of the channels palette, save a selection as a channel. If I click once, we now have a brand new version. Let's take a look at it. I'm going to select it. I'm going to deselect the current selection so you can see this. Incredible! Perfect, nice, refined shape to the hat. But look at this great quality to the hair on the left-hand side. Unbelievable. Let's now apply this. As before, I'm going to hold down the Command key on the Macintosh or the Control key on a PC, click on this alpha channel 3 to load this channel as a selection. Let's finish our story by going back to our Layers palette, targeting our image, turn off any of the channels that we made earlier. You should see the selection over our current foreground image, and we simply now go down here to the base of the Layers palette and turn this current selection into a layer mask. Click, and poof, the background has been eliminated. We have the ultimate in masks created from the actual channels found in the image. It may take a little while to achieve, but the quality is incredible. I'm just going to zoom in on this hair so you can see the quality and the amazing delicate quality of the hair as it appears to blow against this new background. There you have it. Masks the advanced way.